Good morning. Happy Thursday, everyone. And it is time for Grow Cedar Valley's webinar series today. We're going to be hosting a conversation talking with Cedar Valley Aquatic Centers and Pools. The idea behind these webinars is just that we're sharing information, especially as things are opening back up, as we're getting excited for some of those things to happen. And we're really excited today. We have Bree Boss, who is the Aquatics and Safety Services Specialist from Cedar Valley Sportsplex. We have Chris Schoentag, who is the Recreation Program Supervisor in Aquatics with the Cedar Falls Recreation Center. Then we also have Matt Neiman, who is the Operations Manager at Lost Island. So a great cast here that's going to be sharing some updates about our aquatic centers in the area. So Bree, if you wouldn't mind just giving a little introduction and just kind of high level, what can community members expect with the sportsplex and pools in the Waterloo area?
Yeah, well, it was a big day yesterday, I think, for all of us when pools got released to open to the public for recreational swimming. So I guess the end of yesterday, we were kind of working through logistics, tentative plans on when we'd like to open, what that's going to look like, getting our staff team together to go over high level, realistically, how quickly we can plan to open. As of now, and we just got approved, we will be opening our outdoor pool Burns on Saturday, which would be June 13th. Originally, we were planning on waiting until about the 18th, but with the governor's proclamation. So with that getting released yesterday, we've had our staff, we've been running swim lessons outdoors and indoors at the Sportsplex since June 1st. That's been going great, very productive. So now we're just trying to put everything together, make sure we have proper COVID guidelines outlined to the public, getting communications out about what patrons can expect, things of that nature, and moving forward with opening day on Saturday.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Chris, how about you? What can community members in Cedar Falls expect moving forward?
Well, again, kind of a shocking announcement yesterday. We figured we'd have another 5 days to get everything prepped. We are actually in Cedar Falls shooting to open the Falls Aquatic Center and the Holmes Junior High pool for open rec swimming on the 20th, 19th or 20th. If we can get our staff meetings squeaked in before the 20th, then we'll open on the 19th. But right now we're shooting for the 20th. We plan on opening up season pass sales hopefully this Monday. There'll be a little different view to that, or different way to do that, so people might want to keep an eye on our Facebook page and our city web page, and we'll send a press release out too as to how to buy the pool passes. Yeah, we're just getting ready. We got some final touches to put on it. We got some social distancing reminders and tape marks, just like you'd see in the grocery stores and every place you go. So we're getting geared up and ready to go.
Awesome. And then Matt, what about you? What can we expect from Lost Island?
Yeah, so I'm going to hop right on the same train as we were shocked by the announcement yesterday. We, of course, have a staff of around 200 that work for us. And so, unfortunately, moving up our date wasn't something that was going to be super feasible for us. So at this point, the 18th is our planned opening. We will be running a limited space still with our guests. At this point, we're going to just keep it to about 1,600. We think that's a good position for us to start with, spacing wise, for our guests. We, of course, have had the pleasure of having a couple more months to prep and prepare for, what our park was going to look like during COVID. We got to watch what other states were doing as they opened, and so. Same thing, dealing with some markers on the ground. Our staff is actually going to be wearing masks when they're guest facing. And we're going to be expecting a lot from our guests as well. We're going to be expecting them to keep their distance from each other. We'll have signage reminders as well as audio reminders coming through our radio system as well. We're excited to do this, and the last thing we want to do is have anyone get sick or anything moving forward that way. So of course, we're doing everything we can, and we're expecting our guests to respectfully do the same as well.
Right. And I think that the governor in our proclamation really talked about that it is going to be focused on, doing what's right as you're, enjoying some of these amenities. So, absolutely. This is a question for anybody. I'm just curious, from your guys' perspective, what's it been, you talk about how, yes, a big deal, a big kind of sudden change, but what's it kind of been like behind the scenes? Was it like nervous as you guys were looking towards opening up? Like, was there even the fear of not being able to open up this year? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I think nerves on my end because I got hired in this position back in February, so had about a month of normalcy before we shut down. So just kind of navigating those waters and planning for opening this summer. We had been regularly hiring staff leading up to I guess when we shut down. So then that kind of made it difficult with the hiring process and trying to keep people in the loop without having a lot of knowledge on our end about what things were going to look like. So yeah, that has kind of been interesting, and just trying to prepare for a summer, especially given last year we were down one pool. So we kind of had some different seasons than we would be used to.
Right. Chris, what about from your end?
It's been pretty nerve-wracking. Not a whole lot of sleep sometimes. You think about everything that goes into getting these facilities ready, and then you don't know what's going to happen. Matt said he hires over 200 people, and then we hire probably around 80 or so people there. If we don't shut down, and you got all these kids that were counting on you for a summer job, so that's just nerve-wracking. Now we've got all these new guidelines that we have to implement, and hopefully people, like Matt said, will help us out greatly by following them, and rather than pushing boundaries or pushing regulations or whatever you want to call it. So the whole, everything has just been so up in the air. So we had everything planned for opening up on the 17th with 50% capacity, which I see we had a comment with somebody asking about what ours might be.
Yep.
Real quick, I think we're going to try starting out with 600 to see how that goes. That'll be about half capacity, and then we can bump up from there. But anyway, all these plans were made for opening at 50% and everything else, and then now all of a sudden it's wide open except for the 6-foot distancing, and we have to really quick see and reevaluate, do we need to change anything within the next 4 days?
Right. And I know, Matt, like you were talking about some of the things were more planned from your end, but how about from your guys' perspective? Because I mean, when I was looking, you guys were, having advertisements out, getting ready, getting people excited about hiring. And so I'm curious from your perspective as well.
Yeah, of course. So we have an 82-day operating season. That's all we function for. And so, we were trying to be very proactive in the beginning, getting our plans in place. I would lie to say we weren't shocked by some of the moves that happened with the decisions on what opened. We were feeling pretty comfortable with being an outdoor facility in a UV environment with a chlorinated environment. We also have a significant amount of staff that we've hired that will purely be hired for the purpose of cleaning. We had been following what the standards were saying was appropriate, and so that was the biggest thing from our end, was feeling like we were really ready and really prepared to open, and having the procedures in place and being kind of held back from being able to do that was definitely there was definitely some exhaustion that happened there. The staff meetings that we had here where maybe it'll be next week, and you're kind of getting dragged along, and that was everyone. We're definitely not standing alone there. I'm sure every business was gunning to get that going. Of course, aquatics and summer attractions fall into that really difficult part of not being able to make up revenue on the other end of a season as well.
Right, right. So quickly, I want to talk about staffing in a second, but one question that did come in related to the one that you answered, Chris, is will any hours change or the expectation of how open or like when you guys are open? Is anything changing with that at all? Or can guests expect that the normal times your facility's been open is what will happen?
The only thing that we brought up is possibly closing instead of 8:30, closing at 8 o'clock, so that gives our staff time to disinfect, so they're not there until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. As far as hours changes, we do have some other changes. I don't know if you're going to cover that later, but I mentioned, we're going to try and start out with about 600 people. We will not have concessions, just because of the whole social distancing. Our stand isn't big enough to hold that many people if we have to go 6 feet apart. We will not have our floating animals in the pool, and nor will we have our basketballs out. And it sounds like we will also, not sounds like, but we will also have reduced number of tubes for the water slides. So, that's all in that attempt to maintain that social distancing. So hopefully, everybody understands and can help be on board with us to keep everything safe and good.
Right, right. Bree or Matt, are there any hours changes from you guys' end?
Our normal operating hours are going to remain the same. The only thing that we're kind of waiting for moving forward is with the good news that happened yesterday, there was some bad news that some of the colleges going back a little sooner than expected. And we are hopeful that we'll be able to survive with our high school staff in place. But some of those schools have also not released their dates. And so unfortunately, this is a conversation we've had for years, and that is, of course, we want to have kids to have the opportunity to be back in school, but we also want them to have the opportunity to make the money to, cover their year. A lot of the kids that come and work for us are working for the year during the summer, so even losing a week is a substantial amount of revenue. The other side of it that we see is, tourism is the number 2 tax base in the state of Iowa. And so when we think about that, we think about the tax dollars that are potentially getting lost to the schools that we could be generating and producing as well. And so there's always a soft balance between, of course, we want proper education for our kids, but we also want to have our opportunity as well.
Right, right. And then how about you, Bree? Any changes hours wise or?
No, not just minor tweaks, I think. Just to not, we've had some stuff where we have overlapping programs to kind of squish things in and provide more hours for lap swimming, stuff like that. So we're just avoiding any program overlapping. But other than that, all of our hours will stay about the same.
Okay. Hey, Chris, there was a question specifically for the falls. When was that date for the passes? You probably can see that.
Yeah, I can see it. This is kind of at a bad timing because we have a meeting tomorrow with our city officials. We're hoping to start putting them on sale on Monday, but we'll know more tomorrow after our meeting. And like I said, just keep an eye out on our social media pages and our website. And as soon as we know we can get the green light, we'll get them going.
Okay.
But right now we're planning on Monday.
Okay. Thank you. And then Kate White had a question. Have you heard about splash pads or spray pads, anything like that? Any insight there from anyone? I personally have not.
I don't know much on those. I haven't read much up on them.
Okay. Well,
I don't know.
Okay. Well, Kate, if you're looking, we'll look into that and get back to you on that. One question I was curious about, we talked about staffing a little bit, but from the staffing perspective, I bet it was tricky when promoting and getting people to sign up. Were there any difficulties with even just getting people on board for the summer that are seasonal? And anyone's more than welcome to answer.
So from our end, staffing is always a monster for us. Finding, like I said, with the short season we have, trying to convince someone to possibly, take a break from their other job or come to work for us for such a short season. But that being said, this year, of course, in the beginning, as people were hit kind of hard with loss of jobs, we saw quite an uptick in our staffing and our ability to hire people. The difficult part was as soon as we started to have delays in opening and that uncertainty of when things were going to happen, we definitely saw people that backed out. And we're very thankful for the staff that has stuck through this with us. There's been those weekly emails that say, we're hoping, and we've been lucky enough to have a staff that has stuck through with us. So luckily right now we're in a good position to be staffed and fully staffed for our opening.
Awesome.
The strange thing about all this on our end is that it's probably one of the better application pools that we've had in a long time, as far as the number of people and qualified people. So we had a lot to actually choose from, and we got people hired and put into places. And then as it kind of went on and on, like Matt said, we did have people drop out, but we luckily had a good pool to draw from there. And we still are having people drop out here and there, but with our changes, we should have enough staff to draw from to be able to keep the facility open. My biggest concern is, like was said earlier, the school's opening up earlier. That's going to take a lot of our guarding staff away from us. So we're going to have to see what that actually brings down the road.
Sure. Thank you. And then Bree, what about you?
Yeah, so getting staff hired, originally we're relying on our returning staff, which luckily we had a strong number of staff returning from last season. We had a rough season last year too, so the amount that we had coming back, we're fortunate to be able to have enough for Burns pool. But it affected us so bad that we typically have 2 outdoor pools, and then realistically, I only had enough staff to operate 1. So last year, Gates was open due to some major maintenance issues on Burns. So now we're doing the flip-flop, and now Burns will open for the 2020 season, but Gates will not. And still working on pulling some extra people into place after our management team is going through scheduling and realistically how many hours these kids can work before their needing breaks, because we do want to guarantee them a solid amount of hours, but we're going to be looking to hire a few more staff just to for the changes that COVID has presented for cleaning wise, just so that we have a strong team in place throughout the day to get everything clean and disinfected.
Gotcha. Hey, we had another question come in, and a couple of you have already touched on this, but just quickly, it was, will staff be required to wear masks while working? Just quickly, if you guys want to dig into that.
So our staff is being provided masks from our facility. At this point in time, if they are going to be within 6 foot of contact of someone, we're asking that they have their masks on. There's obviously going to be some lifeguarding positions as well as some maintenance positions that are not necessarily working next to someone closely. And so those are positions that they're going to be able to have their masks just with them and place them on when necessary. And the same thing, this is something that has been asked quite a bit on our page as well. There's been quite a concern for our staff. We've gone through procedures of how we enter the water when we're wearing a mask, but that mask comes off when we're entering the water. The last thing we want to do is have someone have some sort of issue with that mask in the water. And the same thing that we're asking our guests. We encourage them, if they're outside the water waiting in line for food, that they may want to have a mask with them. But when they are riding the rides in the pools, we ask that they not be wearing a mask.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Bree and Chris, do you guys have anything to that for?
We're pretty much in the same boat. Our staff will have masks. We'll be asked to wear them if they are within 6 feet of somebody. Of course, they'll be removed if they have to enter the water to help somebody. We're going to ask the same thing of patrons to please wear a mask into the facility. If you're in the water, you obviously don't need to wear them. If you're standing in line for an attraction, you won't need to wear them. But if you are on deck or just moving around, then we'll ask that you wear the mask.
And we have one large slide, so we're gonna rely on people social distancing, and then our guard at the top of the slide will be required to wear a mask. And then we're just encouraging patrons to abide by guidelines set forth by the public health officials. And then the one difference that we have is we are offering swim lessons right now. So one of the big changes is our swim instructors are required to wear masks while interacting with children. And then, which has been tricky, but actually got to teach the first day, so I got to see firsthand. It is when they get wet, we have the specialized, like waterproof swimsuit material mask, and boy, when they get wet, it is really hard to breathe. So as much as your staff can avoid getting them splashed or wet and get them dried off quickly, that does work. But yep, so that's kind of going to be our stance on it.
Okay. Perfect, and thank you. And hey, we're getting kind of close to closing time, and clearly there's a ton of updates, and there's not enough time to cover them all and get specific. So from each of you, what's the best way for somebody, if they have more questions or just curious of more specific information, where can they go to access or find out more things about your plans?
So our website is www.thelostisland.com. There's a COVID tab under there for any questions that comes that way. Tickets can be purchased through there. And then we do updates throughout our season on Facebook of deals and just basic park information to keep everyone up to date.
Awesome.
Same, we do a lot of our posting on our Facebook page, so they can follow that, Cedar Falls Recreation Aquatics, or they can visit our website at cedarfalls.com/aquatics, and as soon as we know things, we update it as fast as we can.
And likewise, we rely on the website, cvsportsplex.org. Otherwise, they can check out our Facebook page for updates.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for your time this morning. Like I said, there's a ton of information that you shared. You couldn't cover it all, so thank you for sharing that information. Just a little housekeeping note for our webinars. We are transitioning, instead of 2 a week, we're going to be going to 1 a week. So keep that in mind, if you're tuning in regularly. And next week we're featuring Heather Marquez of Action Coach, and the title of her presentation is "You're Open, Now What?" Looking at businesses and how our guests have described today. It's interesting because you have to make decisions, especially when your very specific business is trying to reopen and stay safe and keep your customers in mind. But hey, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you for the great questions, and again, thank you to our speakers for their time. Bye bye.